after over a year of waiting, we finally got the leaks for the Indiana Jones sets. Give me a second. I don't think I'm in the right attire for this situation. I'll be right back. Much better. Where was I? Just last night, we got the first leaks, pictures that is, of the 3 Lego Indiana Jones sets coming April 1st. We didn't get anything for the rumored Temple Escape display set. Honestly, I can't wait to take a closer look, which is what we're going to do right now. So I've done my best to increase the resolution and enhance as much as I could with the images. They are very low quality, so I really just did the best I could. I was able to make them a little bit better, but if I'm honest, I didn't get that much more detail out of them. But for looking at it on a large monitor, it did help. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through 3 pictures and we'll see what I can find. Okay, so I got the first one up on my screen now. This is the fighter plane chase set. This is a remake from one of the sets from 2009, I believe, and the second wave of the original Indiana Jones line. So this one, like the leak said, we get the main German fighter plane as well as the car that Indy and his father steal. So, alright, so I pulled it up in Photoshop just so I can have an easier time zooming in and looking at things. So I think we'll start out by looking at the plane itself. So right now the biggest thing that jumped out to me was the propeller. So it looks like they're using the same technique as the Amelia Earhart promo set, using the oar pieces. It just looks like they've attached it, so it has 4, which is accurate. I've also got a few pictures of the plane itself, so the 4 is accurate. In the original set, it only had 3, but that's just because Lego used one of the big propeller pieces, so it is more accurate. I love it because it gives a lot more engine detail. And looking at the plane, I do think the angle of it does make it look smaller than it really is. Like, I feel like this is kind of a bad angle to use in terms of promoting the set. It does feel like it would be a lot larger, but just from the angle, it kind of feels like almost like a junior set. But so this one is probably going to be one of the sets that does look better in person, but just looking at it, it has a lot of sand green. It's hard to tell if that's dark gray or dark green, but based on the images here, I'll put these up in the video so you can see. The plane itself does have striped pattern with sand green and dark green. Obviously, they didn't put the Nazi banner on the tail of the plane just because, you know, Lego isn't going to do that. I don't even think they would go as far to make it red. So the cockpit, it's hard to tell if that is a new piece. I believe it might be a new piece just from the general shape of it. It does look like one piece, but it is hard to tell. The image is blurry. But the cockpit is printed. Well, it has detail on it. It could be a sticker, but I'm not sure. Usually Lego, especially nowadays, they like to print detail on cockpits. For example, with sets like the Razor Crest, they'll print on the cockpits just because it's harder to apply stickers to curved surfaces. But I can also see that stripe pattern, once again, does continue onto a couple pieces on the wings. Those are probably stickers. I do see on the top of the plane, just in front of the cockpit, there is there's nothing really to imply the guns that the plane uses. So it doesn't really look like anything there, but it could be sticker detail. There's a glare just from the photography, so we don't really know that. It does look really good. It looks fairly close. I think they even got the, it's hard to tell, but it does kind of look like they have the almost slight V-shape bend to the wings. I think the thing I'm most curious about with this set is if there will be a feature to make the wings of the plane shoot off, especially since this is the scene with the car. I mean, in the 2008 set, actually. This is the plane from the original set. And of course, I won't do it too hard because I don't want to lose the pieces, but you can push down on this back cockpit to shoot out the wings. I'd honestly be surprised if LEGO didn't try to do something, even just making the wings removable. So it does look like, I think the overall scale of the plane is pretty good. You can see the pilot sort of through the clear glass, and that does look pretty much, not to scale, but the scale doesn't look very off. The pilot doesn't look too big inside the cockpit. It does have the newer stud shooters on the wings. These are the new vertical ones instead of the horizontal ones. It does actually work because on the actual plane there's almost these little bulbous kind of, it looks like puffed up areas on the wings. They look a lot like it, so to me they don't stick out that much. I don't think it has a rear wheel, which is the only one that actually sticks out. But in the scene we don't actually see the landing gear, so I'm not sure if that's something that LEGO just added in so you can actually have the plane landed, but it is hard to tell. And then on the sides of the front of the plane we have what looks like either 4 studs or tile with the bar on top. I don't know what the piece is called. I think they work well as the detail. So that's all I can really find on the plane. I do see some studs on the side of the plane, so it does look like the build will have a lot of snot techniques, at least for the plane. But it does look overall, just from what I can make out, the plane itself looks really great. So moving on to the car. I love it. It looks great, just like in the movie. It looks like there's some detail on the doors. It's hard to tell. In this set, it did say there was a chest on the back of the car, and I was a little confused on that, but I can see the bar for the newer designs. I believe they came out for the Minecraft sets, but looks like it is one of those chests as well with the brown top. And you can also see the tire in the background. And I think the last thing that's included with the set, it looks like there is a sign just to the right of the car. Now, it's hard to tell from the image, but I think what the sign might even say is that there's a tunnel up ahead. I would love it if that's what the sign actually is. It kind of looks like there's a black rectangle, so if that is really what the sign is saying, then I love that. That's such a great detail. That would probably be one of my favorite pieces in a LEGO set if that is really what it is. But if it's not, then I'm just dumb. So, final thing here is the figures. So we'll start out just with Indiana Jones, and I'll talk more about the Indiana Jones figure in general. A lot of people don't even know, but in this scene, Indiana Jones is wearing a tie, and he does not have his satchel, and he does not have his gun belt. I have noticed the shirt underneath his actual shirt does look white, which is interesting to me. I'm sure because of printing in general, it'll probably come off as more tan, but as you can see, the shirt I'm wearing is more tan than white, and sometimes it's almost like a gray. But overall, I think it does look good, but I do feel like tan probably would have worked better. As for the hat, I'll talk more about that later on, but I love it. I'm probably gonna love it even more once we have good pictures. And next is Henry Jones Sr. Now, I think what's interesting to me is that the figure, it looks like it has a lot more detail. It's just I can't really explain it. You'll just have to see the image because I am a little disappointed that they didn't make a new hat mold for him. His hat in the movie is very short. It does have the right brim kind of shape, but the top of the hat is way too tall. It's just the pith helmet piece that Lego's been using since the 90s. And they used it in the original sets, and I feel like they could have made a new mold for this. Because this one is just way too it's too weird. It doesn't, I don't mind, but I would have preferred if they, made a new mold for it. And other than that, I assume he'll only have one face expression for the pilot. Does look like he is tan. I believe the leak said he would be sand green, but it does look like he has tan and dark tan legs, as well as some brown gloves. I believe that is all accurate, but it's hard to tell. It almost looks like he's wearing some sort of sash or rope. And I believe his helmet is dark tan as well, which is good because that is a lot closer to the scene. And overall, I think it's just the composition of the colors look a lot better. Other than that, I don't think there's anything else that I can make out. But overall, I think that covers everything that I could find for this set. So let's move on to the next one. All right, so now we are on to the next set, The Lost Tomb, or the Well of Souls. They kind of sad they didn't call it Well of Souls just because maybe they just wanted to make it a little more nostalgic for the original set. I gotta talk about the play feature here of the statues falling over. So number one, the two Anubis statues, it looks like they are on a turntable piece, one of the 4x4. So it looks like you can angle them at the 45 degrees. It does look like only the right statue will fall over, which is, I think that's good. In the original set, both could fall over. I thought that was a little weird, but I think this is good because it saves pieces and it helps add a little durability to the wall. Speaking of which, it's hard to tell, but you can actually see the section of the wall that can be knocked over, and it looks like it's about as wide as the statue itself. And I'm glad about that, just because of another play feature, which we'll talk about in a second. But the wall, I love the mix of dark orange and even dark blue in a couple spots. But it does look like they have hieroglyphs. I think it looks great. It definitely looks like an Egyptian tomb. Now, the biggest question I have is, are they going to include the R2-D2 and C-3PO Easter egg in one of the hieroglyphs? Now, they actually had this in the original set, and it was, of course, referenced to the film. The arch does look good. It looks just like in the movie. It is a lot smaller, and I think that's just because, space, but I'm glad they included it. Just behind the arch, there's actually two sarcophagi, and they're actually brick built. I wasn't sure, but you can actually see a couple of studs on them, and it looks like either a sticker or a printed. And I assume how it would work is you get a mummy in the set, so I assume you could have one of them pop out, or maybe it's on the other side. You can see kind of a gray outline and maybe a little bit beyond that. And I believe the leak said that this would be a 2-section set. So I believe that is probably the hallway where Marion sees all of the skeletons. I would be a little surprised if there were skeletons in the set, but they weren't really counted as minifigures. So who knows, maybe there are a couple back there. I would hope so, just to fill out the space, but really, you can't really tell how big it is from this picture. And then the last thing I can see about the wall is there's actually a small area where snakes can drop in. So that's pretty cool. I like that. So it does look like you'll be able to drop snakes in through the wall into the main area. I think the actual Anubis statues look great. All right, so for the main area, it looks like we get some snakes. Some are in dark blue and others, I believe that is dark green. It could be the regular green, but probably dark green, I believe. And another thing is that it's hard to tell, but I believe there is a cobra, maybe two. It's hard to tell. There looks like one in kind of the same position on either side. That looks like the Cobra piece that I believe was introduced in the minifigure lines, because it looks like it has kind of a print on the front. But if that is the Cobra piece, that would be great because you can recreate the scene where Indy falls down and is face to face with his biggest fear. Other main thing about that area is just there's some torches, which is also accurate to the scene because the main characters use kind of a fire wall to create a path to the Ark. It does look like you get at least 6 snakes, not counting those cobras if those are cobras. Last thing here is the figures. So we get a mummy. Most likely it's just a random mummy, but it would be cool if if they actually designed it based off of the one that Marion gets scared by when she sees it in the sarcophagus and it has the snake coming out of its mouth. That would actually be pretty cool. It does look dark tan and has that kind of, I'm not sure what it's called, but almost like the upside down rainbow necklace. We do get Sala. I don't believe that's a new mold for his head wrap. I believe that's just one of the pirate head wraps in white, because it has kind of the 2 tails at the back. I'm fine with that. Some people really wanted to have that strand that he has coming down on one side. I'm fine without it. He has his vest on, which looks great. It looks like he just has some tan legs. Can't really tell if he has printing on it or not. Next up, we have Marion. Marion, it looks like she has dual molded legs. That's super cool. She has no sleeves, and the dress print does look very good. One problem I always had with the original figure is they didn't do kind of the slim prints that they usually do for female characters. But I can already tell on this one it does look a lot better. And her hairpiece is a different one. It's a little hard to tell, but it does look like the middle part hairpiece in black. I think that's a pretty good choice. There's not really a good piece for it. I've seen people use certain ones, but I think with the one they went with, that's a pretty good choice. There's not really more you could do. And then finally, Indy. So Indy is in his classic attire. The one thing that I've actually noticed is you can see when he's up on the statue up in the top right, I believe that his hands are the same color as his legs, which would mean that they've given him his gloves. If you don't know, in Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indy actually wears gloves in a few scenes, mostly in the second act of the movie. But I've always loved the gloves. I'm glad that they actually included them. It is hard to tell, but they do look slightly darker than the tone of his head. You can't really see the printing on them because there's a bit of a glare. It's still hard to tell about the hat piece, but I'll go over that in a little bit. I was kind of hoping they'd do a 2-tone dual molded satchel, but it looks like they didn't. But that's okay, I'm fine with that. The last thing here we can actually look at is the Ark. So the Ark, it looks fully gold, so that's cool. And it is very weird to tell from the angle of the set. I do believe that they're using a new mold for the cherubs on top. If you don't know, the cherubs are the little angels that have their wings pointed towards each other. Those are the things on top of the lid. It does look like a new mold for those. I could be mistaken, it's hard to tell. We don't really have the best picture or angle to figure that out. Also, it looks like Marion has a torch. I don't know if we'll only have that one or multiple, but I can't really tell what piece they're using for the torch just because of the angle they're holding it at. But overall, I think the set looks great. I think the play feature is definitely a big improvement on the previous one in the original set. And overall, it's just bigger and it looks a lot better. And even just the colors have massively improved. So I'm very excited for this one. I think so far, I think it's great. We finally get Sala. And already the figures look like massive improvements over their originals. So with that one out of the way, let's move on to the final set. Alright, so now for the biggest set and the last set. This is the Temple of Doom. This is probably the one that will be the easiest to analyze just because it really does show you everything up front. Starting out with, unfortunately, I don't think this looks good. And honestly, that's just because of the color they used for the statue of Kali. I feel like they kind of had a bunch of ideas and they didn't know which one to pick, so they just went with all of them. And honestly, I feel like they kind of dropped the ball on it. The actual build of it, I do think, I think the actual build of the statue, like the pieces they used, looks like it looks phenomenal. But my problem is just the colors are so weird. It's like, it doesn't feel like that's what it is. I'm fine with it being, it almost looks like it's cut in half and just put on there, but I think that looks fine. I was already not a big fan of the red, the dark red and the black, just because I get they were trying to emphasize how in the scene, the entire scene is lit with a orange, and that kind of reflects onto the statue. So I get that, and I think the gold works for the eyes because the eyes do actually glow in the statue. But for the hands, I don't know. That is definitely gold. I feel like they should have just stuck with the either the dark red or the black. Personally, I would have preferred if they just did all dark gray, but I know that doesn't really look good. So I don't know. This is probably going to be one of the sets that I need to see in person to make a final call on it. The actual necklaces of human body parts, it's kind of funny they used Wolverine claws for that, so that's the details on it look great again. It's just the colors that throw me off. The build around the platform, the pillars, those look a lot closer to the ones in the film. It definitely feels a lot more spacious than that one, and these ones actually have the torches on them, so that's good. The skull that holds the Sankara stones, it looks too flat, and the actual skull is very slim. It almost looks like a rectangle the way it's shaped, but here it looks like they used some clips. This set does actually have a light brick that is confirmed because we can see in the bottom right of this picture a little light brick emblem. We do see 3 of the figures here. We see Indy, Molaram, and the Maharaja. The sacrifice trapdoor, I think it looks pretty good. It also does look like they're just using the single big piece, which I'm kind of disappointed about. In the film, it's actually 2 parts that open like this. It's not just a regular trapdoor, so that's a little disappointing. It looks like it's using the same features in the old one where you just pull a pin. I would have preferred if they at least tried to make it those 2 separating parts. I understand why it's a lot simpler this way and you can save a lot more parts. I think everything except for the statue looks great. You can see there's a ladder here behind it. And overall, I think at the base, the lava pieces look good. It looks like the lava's spewing up. And there's actually, it looks like a small dish piece. Helps sell that look in the film where the lava kind of swirls into the center. Now kind of moving out to the edges, on the left we can see there's a few steps down and then a wooden platform out to one of the entrances to the minecart track. You can actually see there is a lantern and a small area to kind of propel the minecarts. So it looks like I think that's a great feature. You can kind of rocket off the minecarts by pushing that in. It is what I feared most, and that's the fact that it is using the roller coaster track. Because if I'm being honest, I really hate the way the minecarts look. They're definitely smaller than the original set, and it looks like they're using brown, which makes I'm fine with that color choice. But it's I wish they had done something else, tried to make a new kind of minecart piece to attach it to the rails, because it just doesn't look like it. Like in the film, it just looks like a big blocky chunk. I don't like the way the minecarts look. I feel like it could have been done a lot better. So I don't know. Still on the fence about it. I don't really love it or hate it. So again, this set is coming out to be one of those things where I really got to see it in person, have it in front of me to decide if it's good or bad. The back of the minecart track is covered. Everything else, you can see a support piece going behind it on the ground. And then moving over, we have the end of the track, which, if I'm not mistaken, it does look like the minecarts have brakes. So that could have been hidden on the other minecart. But it looks like they have brakes, and also could possibly be a place to put Indy on the front of the minecart, so you could recreate the scene where he tries to force stop it. You can also see what looks like a crate with a couple shovels and other tools, and who knows, you can probably knock it over if you hit it too hard. Last thing here around the base looks like another lantern. Last thing here is the water tower. I do like that they have it. It kind of adds something else to the track, but you will definitely need some imagination to pull that off, because you only get what looks like 8 or so round bricks. So with the main heroes, Indy, he does have the tan shirt, and from this actual angle of Indy on the set, it does look like he has leg printing, and it's the best shot we see of the legs. So it looks like that belt is definitely lowered down, and that the holster has moved from the front of the leg to the side. So that is very cool. Overall, I think it looks great. Laurent, hard to tell, but it does look like he's using the newer dress piece for his robes. I'm glad they did that. His helmet, I guess I would call it, is new. It's not the same one as the original, and I'm glad. It does look like the horns are the same pieces, but the actual base is a different one. It's definitely a new mold, but the horns are made to be a little longer, which is good, because the original Lego one looked a little too short. Next up, the Maharaja. Definitely looks like the version of him when he fights Short Round, so with no shirt, and he has the black legs. And actually, in this set, when he's up on the platform, it looks like he's holding a knife and what looks like a voodoo doll of Indy. So that's very cool. I'm glad that they included that. That's such a cool thing. I love the little minifigs, minifigs. The thuggy guard, he looks good. He looks like he has everything that he should. Hard to tell if he has the face paint or not, but he probably does. Willy, it looks like she has a normal face and a screaming face. So she definitely has a double-sided head. Can't really tell too much detail on the figure, so we'll have to wait for more pictures. Short Round, looks like they gave him an all-white hat. Again, I was kind of hoping they'd do some printing, but it is hard to tell. On the close-up picture of the fig at the bottom left, doesn't look like we see any printing on the hat, which kind of sucks. But it does look like he has the dark tan jacket, and in the pictures, Short Round and the Maharaja are the same height, and it does look like the Maharaja is using mid legs, so I do think Short Round has mid legs as well, which is great. I'm glad they gave him that, just to give figures extra posability. In the original sets, they gave him super short legs, so I feel like some people might prefer if he had shorter legs, but I like that those ones give him a little more posability. Other than that, not much else to look at on this set. So I think in every single one of these, we get a decent look at the box art. It does look like Indy has his new face. It does look a little odd, but I think that's just, some people have said they don't really like the face. I think it's just because it's so jarring from the face we're used to, compared to this newer one. And it's also because it's so blurry, you can't really see the stubble. So I think when it's clearer, it'll look a lot better. But we do get a good look at the dual molded hat. It looks great. Strangely enough, we don't see the satchel. He's not wearing it. That does let us see better at the torso print. It definitely looks like Indy has his shirt very open. It's almost like this part of the shirt is like super folded over. The jacket looks pretty similar to the original print. The thing that I'm trying to figure out is if he has normal hands or if he's wearing gloves. It's just the hand that's closer up to the screen. It does kind of look more dark tan than the nougat tone. I think the thing that is strangest to me is they pretty much kept the exact same style as the original box art. I actually have, you know, a box here for comparison. Has the same whip going across, same logo, and even the same kind of orangey with Indiana Jones up at the top. But they have changed a few things. So number one, instead of dark brown, it's a more tan. I do like that. It gives a lot more contrast between the whip and the backdrop. It does look like they're also using a map, but it doesn't look like the same position. It could be a new one. Yeah, I just think it's very interesting. They basically went with the exact same look and just kind of swapped out the colors. Um, but overall, I like the new box art. I think I kind of prefer it to the old version. I'm super excited for this line to be coming back, and I really hope that they this isn't the only wave. But I do think it's going to rely heavily on Indiana Jones 5. You know, if Dial of Destiny does do really good, it will, you know, make more people want to buy Indiana Jones sets. So we'll have to wait and see. I think it's going to be a while before we see a leak of the Indiana Jones 5 sets. In about a month or so, we'll probably get some good pictures of these sets, and I'll go more in depth and basically do probably another one of these types of videos. I think all 3 scenes were a really good choice. Still a little iffy on the Temple of Doom set. I gotta see it in person because I'm really not, it's not selling it for me right now. Thank you guys for watching. If you got this far, I hope you enjoyed me kind of going in depth as much as I could about all these sets and trying to find every little detail. But I know it's been a long video, but I've been waiting a long time to have this moment. So once again, thank you all, and I'll see you all in the next one.